You're about to hear an original HFY sci-fi tale titled The War of Silent Stars. I'm a young human and I went to fix alien dragon lady spaceship. What a day. HFY, a short sci-fi. Find a quiet spot, put on your headphones and let the stars fall silent. If you enjoy cinematic sci-fi narrations, consider subscribing for more. Now we begin. The alarms were quiet that night. Only the soft pulse of the orbital ring, only the breathing of machines, only the empty space between Orion Soto's ribs. He was 17 and tired, oil on his hands, static in his hair. A salvager's kid on the graveyard shift, alone with a tug that rattled when it laughed. Tin Finch, ugly, loyal, stubborn. At 02:11 station time, a whisper slipped across the net, not language, not noise. A spiral of harmonics like frost writing letters on glass. The station AI hesitated, unrecognized distress. Outer system, source alive. Orion's thumb hovered above the thrust. This should be reported, it should be logged, it should be handled by people with uniforms and medals. But the war had ended 6 months ago. Everyone important was rebooting peace. And Orion fixed the things important people forgot. He keyed the Finch loose, nudged it free, and let the tug's nose drink the dark. The trail led him past Neptune's blue bruise and into a gully of shadow where comets lost their names. The signature grew colder, clearer. A thready pulse, fading. His floodlights found her like memory finds a heartbeat. A ship, no, a creature taught to be a ship, hull like overlapping scales. Ribs like harp strings frozen mid-song, every curve felt grown, not built. The distress beat fluttered, fainter, fainter. Orion swallowed. Tin Finch, he said softly, like talking to a dog. Hold on to me. He matched drift, he found a seam, he made a door from a place that had never wanted a door. Air hissed, pressure equalized with a sigh. Inside was a night made of pearl, curves and breath, filaments like dew, a floor that gave a little under his boots. He followed sound the way a thirsty man follows water. There was a bridge that wasn't a bridge, a couch that was a cradle, a pilot that was a story. She looked like the ancestor of dragons, arms finned with rayed membranes. Horns swept back like crescents, scaled like her ship, etched in microchannels that glimmered like veins of ice. One eye opened as he stepped in, a vertical pupil, black as the idea of distance. You are small, she said. The translator did its best. It couldn't touch the undertone, the wind bell voice stacked with harmonics that felt like tasting mint. People keep saying that, Orion answered, because humor kept fear in a smaller room. Human. She tasted the word, war ended. So they tell me, do you fight? He could have said no, he could have said he fixed things. He could have said he sang to engines when nobody watched because old machines listened better to songs. I'm here, he said instead, which was all the answer that mattered. Her hand, taloned, elegant, floated toward a crystalline load beside her couch. It was cracked, spiderwebbed with hairline fractures, cool and faintly luminous. Heartstone, she said. I am Karazit of the Flaris Sange. My ship is my body, my voice is its field, we are broken. Orion set down his kit, his breath slowed. Work made a world where fear had small teeth. He traced the fracture with a gloved finger. He felt warmth like sleep. He heard no, felt tones braided so tight they became structure. He knew neither material nor math, but he knew broken. He knew how to make broken listen. He opened micro solder, carbon glaze, filament clamps. He patched coolant veins with foil he cut with his teeth. He adjusted a tuning ring the way you pick a splinter, slow, mean, loyal. Karazit watched with stillness that wasn't cold, a predator's economy, a patient's trust. Name, she said, Orion. She breathed a sound like approval or memory. Skyboy. He tried to hide a grin, failed. He sealed the last crack. The ship's hum shifted, thin to thick, desperate to resilient. Karazit's ribs lifted deeper. Her weight eased into the cradle. You can't light your main, Orion said. Let the knit set, I can tow you into the shadow of a dwarf, safer there. Her eye narrowed, not suspicion, calculation. You came alone. Tin Finch came with me. The finch, she repeated, tasting the word. Small bird, sharp bones, brave. Ugly, he added. She didn't disagree. They anchored to a rock with no story. The finch pulled, the dragon ship glided, and the dark breathed, colder, cleaner. Orion's heart found common time with the hum of two vessels learning to be neighbors. He had just let himself believe the danger had become yesterday when the dark bruised. Not a ship, not a signal, a subtraction. Stars dimmed in a shape, and that shape forgot how to be background. Tin Finch's console grew snow. Static in old TV gray. The station relay went quiet like a held breath. Karazit sat up, slow and inevitable. They smelled me. Who? The ones we called silence. The ones the war learned to name with fear. They feed on song and thought. They make quiet by killing the idea that anything could have been loud. Orion's mouth went dry. How many? Enough, she said, always enough. The bruise reinterpreted itself. Mirrors, angles that had never met, a core like storm pixels. It didn't move through space. It told space it had always been nearer. Tin Finch hissed in his ear. Threat, threat, threat. I noticed, Orion whispered. Karazit stood, reached, pressed her palm to the heartstone. Her ship's scales shivered, valves opened with quiet relief. My field is weakened, she said. I can curve silence, but I need a singer. Orion blinked. A what? She turned the intact eye on him. The Flaris Sange learned to hush the hungry. Our silence was a shield, but silence without song collapses into a prison. We need a human voice to aim the quiet, to give it shape. Your kind are loud, Orion, loud and alive. He swallowed, thought of his father humming next to a tractor, thought of old radios that only found stations when you leaned your breath into them, thought of his mother's cumbia, her grief, the way singing gave tears a safe container. What do I do? Hand, she said simply. Listen, then speak. He unclamped his glove, pressed his palm to crystal. Cold, then warmth. Under it motion, the tiniest thread vibrations beating like invisible wings. He breathed. He let the tones climb the bones of his ear to the tender place behind his eyes where lullabies live. The predator flared. Tin Finch shook like a dog coming out of a river. Orion sang, not pretty, not trained. A boy's hum welded to a promise. Straight note, narrow, stubborn. The heartstone drank it like thirsty soil. The ship grew a hush, not absence, not void. A room where thought could stretch and fear tripped over its own shoelaces. The bruise hit the hush and missed the taste of them. Karazit leaned the field like a shield. The predator reinterpreted, tried a net, tried a spear, tried to tell their atoms they had not agreed to meet. Orion's throat burned. He kept the note. Higher, wider, richer with faint harmonics like rain. Karazit moved them, no thrust, no heat sliding along a seam between being and almost. The spear passed through the space where they had recently considered existing. The predator stuttered, a glitch of its own certainty. Karazit pressed her forehead to crystal, and for a heartbeat Orion saw her, not warrior, not monster, just a person whose people had paid for survival with too much quiet. He dropped the note. Silence fell, not their hush. Absolute, teeth. The predator lunged into a room with no edges to bite. No name to unmake. No sound to conquer. Its logic met itself. It folded, not death. Not explosion, unremembrance, stars unwinced. Orion's lungs remembered to be lungs. Karazit's hand caught his elbow, a gentle talon. He coughed, laughed, winced. So, that's a thing. Not forever, she said. Enough for now. They hid in the dwarf's lee until his voice forgave him. He pinged Callisto. He used tight beam. Low power, humble words. Callisto, scarred, stubborn, hungry for repair, replied with coordinates and a single line, bring her. Bring your song. They limped, glided, drifted. Twice the bruise found them. Twice Orion sang until his ribs ached. Twice Karazit curved hush like a mother curves an arm around a child in a crowd. Jupiter rolled up like an old god wearing weather as jewelry. Callisto opened its ink-dark harbor. No anthem, no cannons, just lights and hands and the clatter of wrenches. They came in slow, dock hands froze, school kids pressed noses to glass. A woman selling chili from a cart lifted her spoon and forgot to breathe. Karazit stepped onto the decking. A child whispered dragon and then louder, brave with wonder, beautiful, no guns, no siren, who had energy left for panic. The war had stolen that too. They tucked her ship beneath spectrum shields. They built a toolbox for a living hull out of stubbornness and what if. Orion's sometimes boss, Manny, cursed child labor, fed him thick stew and pressed a vibraplane into his hand like a benediction. Karazit tried water, blinked, tried coffee, saw God. She learned to nod to elders and accept the way teenagers stared like telescopes searching for home. She listened to the music of air cyclers and fixed 3 by frowning. And slowly, Callisto learned to hum. The first time the bruise leaned over the station, it did not scream. It tasted. It suggested erasure like a pusher suggests sleep. Karazit and Orion stood in the bay with their hands on the heartstone. He sang, raw. She curved, hush, kind. The predator slid off like rain on treated glass. Not gone. Denied. Word traveled like wrenches trading owners. Ganymede's engineers tuned bulkheads with whistles. Enceladus farmers hummed to the ice and felt the ground remember them. An orphan in the belt painted spirals on pressure doors and told them stories. The doors stopped jamming when the bruise tried to convince them they had always been walls painted to look like doors. Karazit sent a message to her people. Not the old Silent Stars code, a choir call. Bring your grief. Bring your song, we are not prey, they came. Cautious, scarred, expecting betrayal, finding coffee, finding kids with dirty fingernails who talked to ships like friends and insulted them like family. A Flaris veteran touched the tin finch's dented hull and said, ugly, and Manny said, she knows, and they were comrades. Orion's mother arrived on a ship that smelled like bleach and hope. She met Karazit, bowed, hugged her son without asking permission. You call me, she said into his hair. Yes, Ma, he said into her shoulder. Days bent themselves into better shapes. They argued about gasket sizes and grief rituals. They laughed less softly. They wrote new protocols because you can't survive on awe. You have to write things down. They built beacons, not guns, choir poles. Devices that listened, learned, and taught the hushes shape to stations too far to sing yet. Orion and Karazit went out to seed them. Tin Finch leading, dragon ship dignified, both stitched to the dark with bright intent. At the edge of the Kuiper, a bruise tried a different trick. It didn't press. It told a story, tightly wound, cruelly neat. It said, nothing you have done matters. It said, you are a sentence the universe forgot to finish. Orion almost believed it, that's how good the lie was. He pressed his hand to the crystal. He sang names, Manny, Ma, Callisto kids, Tin Finch, Karazit. Names are edges. Edges make shapes. Shapes make no possible. The story crumbled. The bruise recoiled. Confused that prey had a map of itself. They came home seasons later to a station that had learned to keep time with its own brave heartbeat. Karazit walked through markets where dragon trinkets kept company with socket sets and fresh bread. She tilted her head toward the dome and said, your sky is loud. Thank you, Orion said. He taught classes in a repair bay that had seen better days and was currently becoming one. Kids learned to listen with their hands. They learned that machines have moods. They learned that fear gets smaller when you give it a job. Predators kept testing. They always would. Sometimes they found a loner on a long walk down a maintenance corridor. Sometimes funerals followed. People sang the funerals with teeth bared and spines straight. Grief was not an apology. It was an architecture. Karazit's ship finally gleamed like a promise kept. The Flaris choir arrived not as a fleet but as a family, ships with scales like stained glass, voices like winter sunlight. Come with me, she said to Orion in the bay's hush. I'll go out to the line, he said, seed the poles, teach the note, then come back. Somebody has to fix the coffee machines when you break them on purpose. She pretended offense. We do not break, often. They left at a dawn Jupiter invented just for them, tin finch grumbling, dragon ship singing a low content chord. They stitched beacons into nothing. They taught miners and monks and smugglers how to hum a corridor through hunger. They learned the Flaris word for the sound of snow falling, and the human word for that feeling when a bolt finally gives. Aha. They stood at the edge of a black so rich it felt like velvet and watched a predator unlearn itself against a wall of songs from 50 worlds. They came back to Callisto with a hold full of gifts nobody expected. Seeds from a world that had never known wind, a tool that measured worry, stories strong enough to carry tired people across bad nights. On a Tuesday that forgot it had once been a battlefield, Orion's mother taught Karazit to roll tortillas. Karazit taught her to feel when water was about to sing. Manny pretended not to cry when a kid he had yelled at for a year told him, "I like it when you yell because it sounds like you think I can do hard things." Atop the dome under a winter of stars, Orion pointed. Vega, Deneb, that one still unnamed. Karazit's pupil closed to a thin line, not alone. "Good name," he said. "Very human," she said. "Very Flaris," he countered. They grinned into the wind that wasn't there and felt it anyway. The predators tested again that night. They always will. They found a quiet patch of metal and pressed an old shape into it, a rehearsal for a worse day. Callisto hummed. The bay's doors sang under their breath. An old woman at a window tapped 2 fingers and held a harmony. A child in a corridor whispered their siblings' names. Karazit bowed her head in the market and gave the hush a spine. Orion in his bunk opened his eyes and breathed a note that was equal parts apology and joy. The pressure eased. No one woke panicked. No one died. The bruise said, "I will come back." The station said, "We will be here." Later there was a council in a room with too much coffee and too little sleep. Humans, Flaris, a Belt Guild rep, a Martian monk who wore dust like a halo, a Jovian storm runner who pretended not to believe in anything he couldn't strap a price to. "We need a network," Orion said. "Not just beacons, choir nodes, places where new voices learn the note in a week, not a year. Places with soup and spare blankets and earplugs for when the kids practice." "War colleges," the storm runner said, amused. "Choir kitchens," Manny said, "with welders." Karazit drew with a claw the shape of a star and its echoes. "We will apprentice the quiet to the loud. We will teach the loud to listen. We will make a currency of trust." The monk nodded. "Grace is efficient," he said. "It wastes nothing." They built it, slow, messy, beautiful. Stations volunteered rooms. Ships volunteered routes. Hardened smugglers volunteered reputations, the best shields money can't buy. Choir kitchen manuals spread like gossip, how to boil water in a field so it doesn't forget being hot. How to recognize the bruise in your sleep and turn your dream into a rampart. How to sing when you are alone and scared and sure your voice is ugly. Sometimes they failed. They wrote those failures down too. They did not hide them. They did not pretend the dead would understand pretending. Years turned. Orion became a name kids said like a dare. Karazit became a statue in chalk and a presence in soup lines and a scold in turbine rooms. Tin Finch acquired more dents and more respect than any tug had the right to own. The predators learned. They tried to be clever. They whispered in languages that had not been invented yet. They sent dreams shaped like relief, but a galaxy humming the chorus of itself is a hard meal. A winter came when the bruise didn't approach for 50 whole days. Children grew bored of vigilance and learned boredom can be holy. A festival was held. Food, music. A dragon dance performed by children wearing cloaks sewn with solar foil. Karazit watched with her eye glistening like new metal, and Orion knew this was the victory no one would sing about because it was ordinary. On a night like the first night, with alarms quiet and machines breathing, Orion lay awake and listened to Callisto snore. He was older now, not old, just older than 17. "Can you hear it?" he asked the dark. Yes, Karazit answered from the corridor because she was polite and had always heard farther than humans. The silence between, he said. The frame around the painting, she said. He smiled. We used to fear it. We still respect it, she said. It holds the song so the song does not spill. He sat up. Do you ever wish? Yes, she said, smiling with her voice. He laughed softly. We could have missed each other. We almost did, she said. What happens when we are gone? He asked. She did not answer for a long time. The station counted its own breaths. The universe adjusted a scarf of nebula no one would see tonight. When we are gone, Karazit said at last, they will still be humming, not because of us, because of one another. The predators will still hunt. That is what predators do, but the hunted will not line up to be alone. He exhaled. Relief is heavier than fear and tastes better. Sleep, she said. Sing me something, he asked, teasing and not a boy hiding in a man's mouth. She clicked her tongue at him. Then she sang, not loud, not the hush, not a weapon. Just the quiet spiral the flowers hum to eggs when the long winter comes. He woke to morning flavored like coffee, oil and someone practicing scales badly down the hall. He fixed a stuck pressure door by swearing at it until it felt seen. He taught a class where a girl with grease on her cheek told him, when I sing, my hands stop shaking. He nodded and said, mine too. He stole Manny's wrench. He let Manny catch him. They argued for the joy of it. He wrote a letter to his mother that said, I am safe enough. He meant it. He sent it. She called anyway. He picked up. He climbed the dome at twilight. The stars were loud with rumor. Karazit stood beside him, horns throwing commas onto the floor of the night. You know what I keep thinking, he said. What? She asked. How lucky the tin finches, he said. She snorted. Ugly bird, sharp bones, brave, he said. Annoying, she added. Loud, he agreed. They stood there a long time, saying nothing new, saying everything better by saying it again. Below them, Callisto thrummed. Beyond, the choir kitchens traded recipes and repair schematics and lullabies. Farther, beacons blinked like stitches in a wound that would never fully close and didn't need to for life to grow around it. A bruise pressed the edge of the system and thought twice. Orion breathed in. Karazit tilted her head. Somewhere, a child decided to be an engineer because screws are more honest than people, and then realized people can be honest too. This is how humanity wins. Not with bigger guns, with better neighbors, with stubborn songs, with the courage to love loudly and listen harder. You asked for war, you found a choir, you wanted silence. We built a kitchen. And that day the galaxy learned humanity doesn't conquer, it endures. Headphone, if you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more epic HFY sci-fi tales. Until next time, stay human, stay unbroken.